Yeah. A very good evening to all of you. Respected Chairperson, Dr. Dipen Soikia sir. Respected advisor and inaugurator of today's program, Dr. Anil Soikia sir, retired principal of Moran College and chief advisor of the Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati. Respected Principal Madam, Mrs. Dalimi Gohai Madam, Principal of Maspa Degree College, Maspa Dhemaji. Honorable guest of honor, Professor Thiam Bharat Singh, Associate Professor of the Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. Respected resource person, Dr. Jajati Patnaik, Associate Professor, Center for West Asian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And faculty members of Maspa Degree College, colleagues of Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, all the participants present here. I, on behalf of the organizing team, welcome you all to this national webinar on research writing in social sciences, organized by Department of Education, Maspa Degree College, in collaboration with the Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, and in association with Assam Political Science Association, APSA. So now I would like to request Mrs. Songita Soikia, Assistant Professor, the Department of Education, Maspa Degree College, to deliver her welcome speech on behalf of the Principal Madam.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. Respected Chairperson Dr. Dipen Soikia sir, respected inaugurator Dr. Anil Soikia sir, Chief Advisor, Center for Ethnic Study and Research, and the retired principal of Moran College, guest of honor Professor Bharat Singh sir, respected resource person Dr. Jajati Patnaik sir, other dignitaries, academicians, learned participants, research scholars, student friends, ladies and gentlemen in the national webinar. First of all, I, on behalf of Department of Education, Maspa Degree College, Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Assam Political Science Association, and Webinar Organizing Committee, would like to welcome you all to this national level webinar and extend our heartfelt gratitude and sincere thanks to one and all for your kind participation in this webinar in spite of your busy schedule. Maspa Degree College is situated at the outskirts of Maspa Musa under Dhemaji district, is a hub of higher education. The total geographical area of Maspa is about 600 hectares and about 11.4% of total population of Dhemaji district live here. The need of higher education for this platform backward area was felt for a long time, and the outcome was the establishment of Maspa Degree College in the year 1984. Since then, this institution has become the lone premier institution of higher education in this absolutely rural backward area of Dhemaji district in Assam. The college has survived 37 years of existence with lots of struggle and sacrifice from enthusiastic people, students, teachers, and well-wishers before the government provincialized. The college in 1930, under the Assam Venture Educational Institution Act 2011, the college has been recognized by UGC under Section 2F and 12B. Center for Ethnic Studies and Research is a non-government social organization established in the year 2015 with a view to develop the people of Northeast India in the area of socio-economic, education, science and technology, healthcare, culture and ethno-cultural studies and research. It is that CESR has organized a lot of workshops training programs, publish a half-yearly referred journal on humanities and social science, state level ethnic dance competition, flood relief program, state level seminar, published a good number of books, provided various awards to the dignitaries for their excellency in socio-cultural activities, and organized a good number of national and international level webinar and workshops founded by ICSSR on relevant topics since its inception. Assam Political Science Association has been organizing various webinars, workshops, both national and international level, being realized their responsibilities to the society. As a part of our agenda for organizing different seminars and webinars, today we are going to organize this webinar on research writing in social sciences. Friends, we all know the importance of writing skills in research, which becomes an integral part not only of academicians and research scholars, but of the students of various levels. Education system has rapidly changed in few years. Now, education of course is about the value of knowledge, and research writing is all about uncovering knowledge and building upon it, so the ability to do research and use it intelligently in writing is a basic tool of any educated person. In today's economy, which is often called the knowledge economy, more and people are using research skills in their daily work. In considering the importance of the topic, in present day, we all the three organizations this national level webinar on research writing in social science, which will definitely help academicians, research scholars, as well as students. Respected chairperson, resource person, inaugurator, guests of honor, academicians, research scholars, participants, we are very grateful to you all for your gracious presence in this occasion and hope. Your active and scholarly participation in the webinar will make the webinar full and a great success. At length, I, on behalf of the organizing committee, CSR and APSA family, once again would like to confer warm welcome and extend heartfelt thanks and gratitude to one and all. With thanks.
Thank you, Sangita Soika Madam, for your welcome speech. In your speech, you have highlighted about this organizing team. It is a Mascot Degree College and a Center for Ethnic Studies and Assam Political Science Association, who have done a lot for the upliftment of the society at large. Well, once again, thank you, ma'am. Now, I'd like to request our inaugurator. Actually, we have invited Professor Umesh Kumar, a professor of public administration and political science in the SKV University, Bihar. He's on unavailable circumstance, he will not be able to attend the program. Anyway, we are very fortunate that our chief advisor, Dr. Anil Soikia sir, retired principal of Moran College, is always with us as a guide, supervisor, and overall in charge of this team. So Dr. Soikia sir is here. Now I'd like to request Dr. Soikia sir to inaugurate our program. Soikia sir.
Yes, very good evening to all of you and resource person, Professor Jajati Kishori Patnaik, and our guest of honor, Tiam Bharatchingha of Manipur University, and the principal Masqua College, and esteemed members of the three organizing team that Masqua College, Ethnic Study and Research, and the Assam Political Science Society, and coordinator Dr. Deepen Das, and other members, including Hangita Saikia, who inaugurated on behalf of Principal Masqua College. And welcome all of you and respected the participant research scholars of this webinar. The topic is very interesting, research writing in social science. Yes, to write something as a research, we need 4 ingredients. Number 1, data, that means collection of data. Number 2, that the classification of data, that these data are collected. This will be for first chapter, this will be for second chapter, this will be for third chapter. And then analysis and interpretation of data. These are 4 primary themes for any research. But the collection of data is more important. The collection of data may be primary or secondary. If it is collected from the books, journal, it will be secondary. If it is collected originally from the field, it will be primary. Yes, I remember 3 researchers, name of 3 researchers is very interesting. Number 1, Hurjo Hazarika, who did his PhD in Srimanta Shankardev University on that topic, published book in Assam during 19th century, means 1801 to 1801 to 1900. And first name of first published book in Assamese language was Dharma Pustaka. It was published in 1813. It was a translation of Bible from, somebody says Hebrew to Assamese, somebody says English to Assamese, somebody say in any Indian language to Assamese, translated by Atmaram Kumar. So what is happening that he did PhD on published book in Assamese. Then first book is Dharma Pustaka. That book is not available. That book is not available, but he is so inquisitive that this book must be collected. Then this book is published by Srirampu Press of Kolkata. He went to Kolkata, but they say it is not available. He inquired in a many search of Assam that it is not available. Then he come to know that book may be available in British Museum or British National Library. Then Hurjo Hazarika went to British Library for that book, his inquisitiveness. With some of the friends that resided in London, he able to go to British Library, British National Library, and inquired the book Dharma Pustaka that is published in 200 years ago. 205 years ago or 7 years ago, 1813. Then they say, the librarian says it is a very rare book. This may be available or may not be available, but we require 3 to 7 days to search the book. And after 3 days, luckily, Hurjo Hazarika got that book. That is a rare book. There is a man who kept this book, and no photographs there. No, you cannot touch this book. But Hurjo Hazarika requests to the librarian that I want this book. This is the first published Assamese book. Then librarian told that you can take some digitalized form, a part of it, not whole book. But Dr. Hurjo Hazarika requests him that this is the book that published in Assam for the first time. And with this book, people of Assam has to fight with their Britishers that in 1836 to 1873, there was no Assamese language in school and college, court, kachari in Assam. But some produced that. Anandaram Dekel Kupal, that is that there is a language in Assamese, that printed books are there. What that books? Dharma Pustaka. Yes. And after threadbare discussion, librarian is open-minded. He said that, yeah, you will get it. You have to pay. How much? 42,000 of rupees. Pujya Hazarika collected that book because Pujya Hazarika did not know whether it is 7 page or 100 page or 500 page or 200 page or very small book or like that. But it is a very big book containing 500 pages, and he has published this book, and he did PhD on that subject. That is the inquisitiveness. By collecting data on what public books of Assam. My first example, and then the collection of data. Then second example, Dr. Hudra Kumar Bhuya, he did PhD on Assam, the Days of Company. And it was Badan Chandra Borphukan who invite the Burmese army to invade Assam. Before that, he went to Kolkata to ask help from the Britisher. It was in 1817. And Pujya Kumar Bhuya is very inquisitive that what Badan Chandra Borphukan wrote in his letter and what Britisher replied. Badan Chandra Borphukan wrote that there is a political imbalance in Assam. You come here to take the administration of Assam. And British replied that we do not go to interfere your political system. But Hudja Kumar Bhuya got that 2 letters in London East India Company. That is the inquisitiveness of research. Yes. And third example is one researcher, she is from America, Rehana Keshi. He did PhD on ethnomusicology. And he did PhD ethnomusicology. He selected the subject Bihu of Assam. She came to Assam and resided here for 4 years. And he is acquiring knowledge how to dance Bihu, how to perform Bihu, how to sing Bihu, how to construct dhol, how to construct gogana, how to construct putuli. She take videography. I was with her, Rehana Khesi. And within these 4 years, not only Bihu song and Bihu dance, he take the heart, he go to the inner core of Bihu of Assam. And she made notation of Bihu song and choreograph of Bihu dance. Yes, she is Rehana Keshi. She did PhD on Bihu of Assam. Anyway, the researcher must note 5 things before collecting a secondary data. What that 5 those things? Number 1, number of author. Number 2, name of books. Number 3, name of publisher, which edition and year. And number 4 is edition year. Number 5 is page number. If it is a journal, there is 6 important. Number 1, the name of the writer. Number 2, the name of the article. Number 3, name of journal. Number 4, the editor. Number 5, the edition. Number 6, etc. is page number. If these have not been maintained, any code from a book or journal will be useless in future. These are very important in research writing. To write something, we need data, collection of data. So we should be very careful and we should be very much devoted to the subject. That I love this subject. Yes, with this word, I conclude, I inaugurate the session. So, thank you very much to all.
Thank you, Dr. Hoikia, sir. In your speech, you have highlighted some important points regarding the main theme, that is research writing in social sciences. I hope our resource person will explain all the points with having a very beautiful presentation. Once again, thank you, Dr. Hoikia, sir. Now, I would like to request our guest of honor, Dr. Bharat Singh, Associate Professor from the Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy from Manipur University, to deliver his speech. And before his deliberation, may I request Dr. Gagri Fukun, moderator of this program, to introduce our guest of honor. Thank you. Dr. Gagri Fukun.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dipenas, and good evening to all. And I would like to welcome you all to today's national level webinar on research writing in social sciences, organized by Department of Education, Maskhwa Degree College, Maskhwa Dhemaji, and in collaboration with Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati, in association with Assam Political Science Association. I would like to introduce to our participants our today's guest of honor, Dr. Thyam Bharat Singh sir. So Thyam Bharat Singh sir is associate professor in the Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. He is currently editor of a working paper of CSSEIP Manipur University. Very recently, he has completed a major research project titled Estimation of Poverty in Manipur, and finally submitted his report to the State Planning Department, Government of Manipur. He is one of the co-editors of a book titled Development and Disaster Management, a study of the northeastern state of India, published by the Palgrave Macmillan Springer, Singapore. He edited a book titled Social Exclusion, Marginalization and Deprivation in Manipur, and also co-edited another book on social exclusion and inclusive development in the Northeast. Two major research projects under the financial assistance of University Grant Commission and Indian Council of Social Science Research, New Delhi, have been undertaken. He has been a consultant of research projects on the India-Myanmar trade under the ICREIER, New Delhi. He coordinated several programs like orientation courses and research methodology courses organized by the UGC Human Resource Development Center, Manipur University. His articles have been published in journals such as Economic and Political Weekly, Indian Economic Journal, Margin, and Journals of Exclusion Studies. Currently, he is supervising more than 5 PhD scholars, and so far 2 students have been awarded doctorate degree. Apart from this, he presented papers in the various international and national seminars, and also organized several seminars, workshops, and conferences as convener. His areas of interest are development economics, trade, agriculture, poverty, tourism, gender, socio-economic resistance, and disaster reduction and social exclusion. So we are very honored to have you, sir, in our program. I would like to request Bharat Singh sir to inaugurate the program, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the organizer for the great introduction. This is my first time of having this lengthy introduction of mine. To start my speech, respected chairperson, Dr. Dipen Sakya, respected coordinators, Dr. Dipen Das, and respected coordinators, assistant coordinators, deputy coordinators, respected advisors, respected resource persons whom I know very well, Dr. Jajati K. Patnaik, Associate Professor, Center for West Asian Studies, JNU, respected inaugurator, Professor Umesh Kumar, respected Principal Dalimi Gohain, and all the beloved audience or participants. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to grace this webinar as one of the guests of honor of this occasion. I really thank Dipen Das for inviting me. The topic of this webinar is very important in the modern society. And in this regard, I honestly would like to appreciate the organizer. Just want to mention the organizer, the Department of Education, Makwa Degree College, Makwa Demazi, and Center for Ethnic Studies, Guwahati, and Assam Political Science Association, APSA. So I would like to thank and appreciate the organizer for conducting this webinar in this present corona pandemic web situation. Because of your courageous and hardworking, you have organized this program. Also, the topic of this webinar is highly relevant in our modern society. You have made this topic very relevant in our modern society. Research writing in social sciences, because I also teach PhD scholars for the last so many years, and still I have a lot of students. I also identify their problems. Regarding this, the previous speaker has mentioned the very important points about data collection. I would like to say a few words on the other dimension of the social science research. What we are facing today in the social science research is sometimes every morning when students or the teachers, academicians read newspapers, they sometimes confuse with the correspondence story. For example, during the budget time, correspondents write story on the petrol petrol prices hike or inflation of petrol. They sometimes mention that the correspondent conducted survey for examining the rise in petrol prices or rise in essential prices, and they put down the finding of the study. So when we glance over this study or survey, it looks very enlightening for us. For example, any newspaper, when they said a survey conducted to examine the causes of price increase in any state, then the researcher may think that oh, this is the survey, this is the research. So why my observation is that our research student, they should think that this kind of story does not have methodology, because they conducted a survey in the petrol station, then they asked some question, they collected information, then why price rises. So they put down the answer as finding. But this is not happening in our academic writing. In the modern research, particularly in social sciences, we need some kind of measurement, like how to measure the dimension. We need a law procedure for writing social research. For example, if they follow a proper sampling method, if they follow the proper procedure of a survey, then what kind of respondents they are they knowledgeable for collecting information? So we need to follow certain rules in doing our social research. So it is in this area where we require a research methodology, so that we can follow rules in writing a research. So I would like to spread my message to the participants that when you write, when you do academic writing or when you do research, you observe a phenomenon, and then after observing the phenomenon, you just think how to collect information, where to collect information. Will it be a quantitative one? Will it be a qualitative one? So how to collect this kind of information for your survey, and what kind of methodology you should follow. This is very important. Without methodology, it is a house without a foundation. It is a house, it is a building without a foundation. It is because of this that higher educational institutions are conducting research methodology program or training every year, every month, so that our researchers are equipped with this knowledge, and then they will be able to write down their social research reporting or survey report, anything, or we can, so to say, academic writing. So with these few words, I would like to thank the organizer and all the resource persons for giving this opportunity to be part of this program. Thank you all.
Thank you, Singh sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation and valuable time for this program. Once again, thank you very much. Hope to meet you soon. And now I would like to request our honorable resource person, Dr. Jajati Kumar Patnaik sir, to deliver his speech. And before his presentation, may I request Dr. Gagi Phukon to introduce our resource person. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again. And I'm honored to introduce our today's resource person, Dr. Jajati Kumar Patnaik sir. Dr. Jajati K. Patnaik sir is currently an associate professor at the Center for West Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He is on lien from the Higher Education Department of the Government of Arunachal Pradesh. He is a member of the editorial board of International Studies Journal published by SAGE Publication. He has been acting as referee for strategic analysis published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis Group and Economic and Political Weekly published by Samiksha Trust, Mumbai. He has been cited by many reputed journals, including Oxford University Press, Routledge and SAGE, among others. Besides his book, he has published enormous articles in edited books, journals, magazines, weeklies and dailies at the national and international level. He has also presented numerous papers at the national and international conferences and delivered lectures at several academic institutions. He has acted as visiting scholar at the Gulf Studies Program, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He is the life member of Indian Political Science Association, Northeast India Political Science Association, and Northeast India Council for Social Science Research. His area of interest is comparative politics, international relations and foreign policy, West Asian studies, translation, connectivity, and border studies with focus on India's northeast border. So on behalf of organizing committee, I'd like to welcome you, sir, to today's webinar. Now the platform is yours, sir. Thank you.
So, thanks. Of course, it is again lengthy introduction. Good evening to all of you. Respected Principal Dalimi Gohai, Machkwa Degree College, Machkwa, Dhemaji District. Anil Saikia, Chief Advisor, Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati. Dr. Prabodh Sharma, President, Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati. Dr. Dipen Das, Secretary, Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati. Madam Sangeeta Saikia, who made an introduction on behalf of Machkwa Degree College, Dhemaji. My dear friend, today's guest of honor, Thyam Bharat Singh, an economist from Manipur University, and who is very much associated with research journals and also research ethics of the different debates are concerned. Ladies and gentlemen present here. Actually, this is a very difficult topic, research writing in social sciences. And you can find the number of participants, it's around 50. If you organize a seminar or conference on some current topics, it may cross 100, but it is a very technical subject. It is a very technical topic, but it is the foundation of research. And as Anil Saikia has already explained briefly regarding data collection, interpretation, conclusion, and primary sources and secondary sources. Also, my friend Bharat has also mentioned about the different methodological parameters, particularly using the quantitative and qualitative methods in research. So I would like to share my personal experience. Of course, the introduction was very long, but since I'm associated with SAGE and Routledge Journal and EPW at the present moment as the referee, so I'd like to share my practical experiences in this regard. So I've decided to make some PowerPoint presentations. I request the organizer to allow me. Actually, host has disabled participant screen sharing. So if you can allow me so that I would share the screen.
Thank
Now
you,
you
sir.
can share. Now you can share your screen.
Okay. So it is now visible. So let me first, it is a little bit heady. So I request the participants to maintain or have patience. Actually, what is research? And this is research writing. So it includes thesis writing, it includes book writing, and writing articles in journals. But research is basically derived from the French word rechercher. It means to go about seeking. It is defined as the creation of new knowledge or the use of the existing knowledge in a creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. Mostly what happens in our country, I've seen in many universities, you find repetition of the work. We just try to collect the data and just repeat the same thing without adding anything to the knowledge domain. As per the ethics of research, we should try our best to give some new theory or evolve some new paradigm or some new models to understand the ontology, that is the physical reality in existence. But it's not done. In most of the time, you find, as Bharat or other scholars must be knowing very well, that when you examine the PhD theses of different universities and the articles, mostly there are a lot of only citations and without adding anything new to the research. So it becomes a collage. It is just a repetition of work without producing something new. So in this context, what is methodology? Methodology is basically the body of methods, rules, and postulates employed by discipline. There are two important aspects which I would like to discuss. One is ontology, another is epistemology. Sometimes we think it's big terms. We have very much kind of fear psychosis listening these terms, ontology and epistemology. It's very easy. If you have a fundamental understanding, it's very easy. So ontology is the surrounding the universe, the being. It is a branch of philosophy which deals with the existence, being, becoming, and reality. The room in which we are sitting or the environment in which we are living, that is the ontology. The physical existence of the world is the ontology. And what is epistemology? Epistemology is the knowledge about this world. So epistemology is a branch of philosophy that deals with knowledge. So before going or conducting research, we should know the existence and the knowledge. We must know our physical existence. the being and the knowledge. And when you understand this, then we can carry forward our research. There is a tree. हम जो सामने पेड़ देखते हैं, the physical existence of the tree. But how this tree can be grown, or different varieties of trees can be planted, that is the knowledge system. So if you are clear about the ontology and the epistemology, then it would be very easier apart to conduct further research. But unfortunately, the scholars, they think it is very big term and avoid this ontological understanding and the epistemological understanding. Then after ontology and epistemology, there are two important aspects. One is positivism and another is interpretivism. Positivism is a branch of philosophy, it is a branch of knowledge, social science knowledge, which deals with sense experience and empirical evidence. Mostly we get data through our sense organs or sense experience and through observation or empirical findings. That is the one source of drawing knowledge, or that is one source of adding knowledge to epistemology. Then second one is interpretivism. And interpretivism uses the idea of construction to understand human beings as subjects who actively create, deploy, and reinforce knowledge. How do we interpret? How do we understand? How do we analyze? So to me, as a scholar, as a student of social science research, I think if somebody is very thorough on both the sources of, one is positivism and another is interpretivism, then we can do wonders in research. Both are equally important and both can substantially contribute to the development of research in social sciences. Then coming to the next category is approach. Which approach we should use in social science research? There are basically two approaches. One is deductive approach and another is inductive approach. In deductive approach, we generally develop a hypothesis based on existing theory. We derive from the universal to particular. There is a broad meta-narrative, meta-theory is a grand theory. And you try to get our findings from that grand narratives or meta-narratives or macro-analysis. And the second one is the inductive approach. Inductive approach is the approach through which you try to derive your knowledge from particular to the universal. We try to testify and try to highlight and examine a particular case, then you try to reach the conclusion. So suppose you say that Ram is mortal, Bharat is mortal, myself is mortal. So you ultimately lead to the conclusion that all men are, or all human beings are mortal. So here in inductive approach, you generally get your conclusion or analysis from particular to universal, whereas in deductive approach, you try to reach out from universal to particular. So these are the major aspects of approaching the research analysis. And the most important aspect of our research writing is research design. Before constructing a house, you try to invite your planners. जब भी हम घर बनाते हैं तो प्लानिंग आर्किटेक्ट बुलाते हैं, इंजीनियर बुलाते हैं, भाई हमको ये दे दीजिए. You just give out the structure of the building. How do or how can I go forward in constructing my house? There could be different models or different designs. Whether you want a thatched house or a brick house or cemented house, or the structures may be Indian structure or Okhamiya structure or Manipuri structure, different designs could be there. So if you have proper design, then you can carry out research in the best possible way. So these research designs I have divided into different categories. The first one is historical research design, and the second one is conceptual research design. Third one is the case study research design. Then fourth one is field research design, and another which I have of course not mentioned in my slide, that is anthropological research design, that is ethnographic research design, because it's suddenly coming to my mind because looking into the Northeastern scenario. So let me first discuss about the historical research design. Being a student of international politics and international studies and social sciences research, mostly our research was governed by the historical research design. Even in the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, 70s and 80s, until the early part of the 21st century, you find the historical research design was the dominant paradigm. India-Iran relations 1970 to 90, India-Myanmar relations, India-Myanmar relations from 1970 to 1990. Some kind of researches have been carried on mostly in the different universities, and the data mainly they were actually drawn from both the primary and the secondary sources. And but the point is that here the historical research design which was used by the scholars across or in the country as a whole, you find in most of the cases were secondary in character. Suppose somebody is working on foreign policy, had he got visa or clearance or anything from the foreign countries to visit the archaeological departments to collect the primary sources? Never. So mostly we depended on the secondary sources to collect data for the historical research. So that is one of the most important limitations of the historical research. And if we build up our research methodology or research thesis or book or anything purely on secondary sources, this is mostly repetition of the same. There is a possibility that we can add something new to the research only by going to the field and by interacting with the people, and by visiting the archaeological departments. Here, one question suddenly comes up into the mind: is myth a part of history, or is myth a part of historical research? Presently, it is interpreted that myth is an important part of research. Even some of the great historians, they have interpreted that the myth is an important part of research. Myth basically refers to your oral beliefs and values which do not have any official record or written record. And some of them are presently working on Mahabharata. I came to know in Jawaharlal Nehru University, applying the Krishna's model of diplomacy, the state art of warfare between Kauravas and Pandavas, to know about the war history and the techniques and diplomacy. So myth is very difficult to establish, but myth is becoming part of history. If you look at the Northeastern society, the oral traditions and customs, they do constitute an important part of our historical research. No doubt in case of India's Northeastern society, where there is no written record about our primitive life and history and culture, this could be an important source of our research design. Then coming to the conceptual research design, this is also equally important in the contemporary period. In most of the Northeastern universities, of course, these theoretical grand theories are applied, looking into the grave scenario. Particularly here, if you look at the conceptual research design, because of the writings of Michel Foucault and Jean Derrida, particularly Derrida's Deconstruction, Foucault's Power and Knowledge, the grand and meta theories like capitalism and Marxism, they are highly criticized. That capitalistic mode of production, you may call it as liberalism or neoliberalism. It is interpreted by the scholars that are anti-people, and they believe in profiteering industry, much to the flight of the local people, to the tribals, to the disadvantaged, and other ethno-religious groups. So this neoliberal capitalistic broad grand narratives and theories were criticized as a critical tool because of this Foucaultian and Derridian impact. Similarly, Marxism as a tool of social science research was criticized in terms of dividing the society into two strong classes. One is the capitalist class and another is an agrarian society. That is the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the workers and the industrialists. So here, being influenced by Foucault and Derrida, most of the Oriental scholars, they said that this power and knowledge, they're largely imposed by the political elites, to suit to their interest. But they gave several alternatives, but these alternatives were misleading. We could not find a solution to the crisis of the society. In this context, post-positivism also emerged as a design to understand this ontology, this physical reality. And here, normative approach was thrust upon. Similarly, feminism also emerged as a tool of research to understand the gender discrimination, patriarchy, male-female subordination, and women victimization in case of war, in case of internal conflict. And I've seen, particularly in Northeastern context, because of the conflict-ridden nature of certain areas, it was some of the scholars, they worked on the role of females and how the female, they were victimized. These are the issues which are being researched on the theme. Then coming to the other aspect is the case study research design. Case study research is a research approach that is used to generate an in-depth and multifaceted understanding of the issue. It is mostly used, it is one of the most useful research design even for the Northeastern universities and the students and the scholars. Suppose you would like to work on the border policy like Arctic policy in India's Northeast, you can apply a case study of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, More-Tamu border, study of Mizoram, Kaladan multimodal corridor, Guwahati-Chittagong corridor, Chinese infrastructural diplomacy and its impact, Dhola-Sadia road corridor, because in the context of Chinese bridge and road diplomacy, infrastructure diplomacy, railway diplomacy, Bougainville bridge as a case study. So there are several works which can be taken off as a part of thesis, as a part of research writing, in case of journals and books. This is very important because in the 21st century, we have to have a paradigm shift on the research design and the methodology. If you look at the Northeastern states, it occupies around, you see, its borders actually, they share 98% of with the external countries like Myanmar, Bangladesh, China, Nepal, Bhutan. So in this context, I would like to advise the students or the scholars to do research on those issues, particularly to know about the history, culture, cross-border economic collaboration. As I give examples, particularly in the context of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Sikkim, and also we have a Chinese brinksmanship and hegemony in the region, Chinese BRI doctrine, that is Belt and Road Initiative. We know that China-Myanmar economic corridor is very threatening in terms of its geopolitical imperatives are concerned. So in this context, how India's Northeast can react. Lot of potentialities of Assam in case of oil and gas resources, how that can lead to cross-border collaborations. In case of Manipur, health tourism, economic collaboration with Myanmar. So these are very, very pertinent issues which can be taken over only through this case study research design. Then issues like role of ethnicity in politics, suppose a study of Bodo tribes in Assam or in different other tribal groups in case of other states of the region. The next, coming to field research design, this is very important. Field research design, you can see, is a method of collecting data with the aim to understand, observe, and interact with the people. It includes direct observation, participant observation, and qualitative interviews. And field research design is very useful for the disciplines of sociology, economics, and anthropology, because in this way you can study the demographic composition, migration and its challenges to the region, cross-border migration, ethno-religious issues, insurgency, terrorism, poverty, unemployment, gender discrimination, human development, regional development. These are the issues which can be dealt with or dwell upon earlier also, we find. And I feel that through field research design, we can explore many new things which remain unexplored even today. The next one coming about what are the steps, but before that I would like to deal with anthropological research design or the ethnographic research design. Actually, ethnographic research design is highly useful in case of northeastern states, particularly the tribes of the region. The greatest, you see, studies, you can say in this direction was conducted by Verir Elwin, Philosophy of Nepha. Verir Elwin had an in-depth study of the different tribes of northeastern frontier agency present in Arunachal Pradesh of different tribal groups like Adi, Apatani, Mismi. And he had actually passed a lot of time there and tried to integrate emotionally with the people. And I think because still most of the northeastern states are still not properly explored, anthropological, you can say ethnographic research design still remains an important research design in case of Northeast. Although there are little criticism, you can say, may be leveled against this research approach because it may be biased. Whenever you stay with the person, you may be suffering from personal predilections, personal biases against the particular group. But in spite of that, it is one of the most important and valuable research designs available for the studying of the northeastern tribes which have not been explored. Buguns, they're extinct in species. If you look at different parts of Arunachal Pradesh, there are certain tribes which are completely neglected, and there is a possibility that they may be extinct. Because you see, Mismi tribe, suppose in Idu Mismi, there are only 10,000 persons. So that's very difficult actually. You have to protect their identity, their culture, and have to actually, we have to bring it in a codified form. Only Verir Elwin has done it long back in 1957. You see, there is a long gap, around 50 to 60 years. Have you really brought out any serious work during this last 50 years regarding the different tribes of Arunachal Pradesh in a codified form? So these are all a lot of challenges. So before, or I can say after this research design, we should know what are the different steps in research. The first step is no doubt about the selection of the topic. You select a topic, and before selecting the topic, you try to formulate certain questions in your mind, that is research questions. Unless you formulate research questions, you cannot select the topic very well. So the first thing is to frame your research questions, then go for extensive survey of literature. Go for extensive literature, because if you are going for extensive survey of literature, then only you can find the research gap. If you find the research gap, then only it would help you in framing your selection of the topic very well. Then how it is relevant for the society. Then the methods you use, as I said, what are the different methods you use for this? It depends which design you will use. Maybe historical research design, maybe conceptual research design, maybe field research design, maybe anthropological or the ethnographic research design, maybe case study research design, maybe field research design. It depends upon you and your area of study and your selection of the topic. Then you collect the data, as Anil Saikia already mentioned. You collect the data both from primary and secondary sources, or whatever you like. I will be dealing with the collection data in the next part of my lecture. Then you write introduction, put in subtext, and bring out the conclusion. Different ways you can do it. Collect the data, interpret it, then you write introduction in the beginning, subtext. These are the different aspects of the journals. Actually, I have put in the journal form, because when you are writing in journal, so you have to write an introduction, there are subtext and conclusion. So you have to be very careful. Of course, in PhD thesis, you have to go in a chapterization scheme. In a book, you have to go in a chapterization scheme. But in case of journal, you have to put in this form like introduction, subtext, and conclusion. But in case of PhD thesis, sample dissertation, and the books, you have to go through chapterization scheme and the different procedures which are given by the duly appropriate authority through different research manuals prescribed by the different universities. Then coming to reference styles. Just a minute. Yeah. So a reference style, we know that it is an important process. Mostly we neglect it. Sometimes you find in the interview board for the positions of associate professors and professors, these questions are asked, and we don't have any answers because we neglect it. Reference styles are of different types. One is MLA style. What is the full form of MLA? MLA stands for Modern Language Association. This is basically used in humanities. MLA style uses an author-based system of in-text citation. For example, Warrior Elwin and page number. Elwin and page number and work cited list at the end of the document. When you are citing, you just put Mr. Suppose Singh, Thyam Bharat Singh, Bharat, page number is 14. So it's the MLA style. So MLA style stands for Modern Language Association. It uses an author-based system of in-text citation. जब हम चैप्टर का अंदर में कुछ लिखते हैं टेक्स्ट का अंदर, वो ब्रैकेट करके उसके ऑथर का टाइटल में पेज नंबर डालते हैं. This is basically used in humanities. These are very important, but we neglect it. We must be very serious about it. Then second one is APA style. APA style refers to American Psychological Association. It uses author date system for in-text citations like Verrier, Elwin, and year. You have to write the author's title and year. That is the APA style, which is one of the most important prevalent styles of research. American Psychological Association. Dipan, I think I have time. Nah? Should I?
Sir, yes, sir, you can continue.
Yeah, because it is a topic which is heady, sometimes boring also. So I don't know how to reach to the audience. Then
Actually, sir, so many scholars are there in the meeting, so I think they have learned a lot from you. So you can continue, sir.
yeah, okay, no problem. So the next one is Harvard style. Harvard style, it uses author date system for in-text citations. Same, Harvard style and APA style more or less are same. Then Oxford style. Oxford style is a very old pattern and it is different. Oxford style of reference uses footnotes in the end of the page. In the earlier period, if you go by the dissertation and theses of the different universities of 17 and 80s, you find in the end of the page huge paragraphs. And in the end of this page, you find footnotes. That suppose Dipan Das, Government and Politics in Assam, Guwahati, Manak Publications 2021, or details are given in the end of this page. And this Oxford style also uses references in the end of the page. What you do here, you give page numbers, superscript numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So when you are writing a research paper, if you put 1, that means it is Bharat Singh. If you put 2, it is Dipan Das. So it is reflected in the end of the page. So Oxford style of reference, it is a old pattern. And sometimes the Oxford style of endnote reference system, I use it. But mostly in the contemporary research, I find APA style or the Harvard style mostly preferred way of reference styles in social sciences. Then whenever you are using this style, you find that how this is used in other ways. I'll tell you, that is Chicago style. The same footnotes and endnotes. So Oxford style and Chicago style have a lot of similarities. You find the Oxford style footnote, then Chicago style footnotes and endnotes. So whenever you are giving endnotes, you write IB, ID, EBIT them. So हमको मैंने when I joined in JNU, somebody told me, EBIT साहब कौन है? बार-बार आता है EBIT साहब. When you are writing IB, ID, EBIT them means repetition. Suppose Dr. Dipan Das or Dr. Thyam Bharat, I would like to repeat them continuously 3 or 4 times. So instead of writing Singh or writing Das, we can write IB, ID, IB, ID, IB, ID. So that is EBIT them means repetition. So that is the reason one of my friends, he asked me, what is this EBIT? EBIT साहब कौन है? कहाँ से पढ़ा रहा है EBIT साहब? So then another way is op.cite, that is opposite citation you use in research. Suppose you are giving some author's name, Elwin in number 3, then if you are repeating it, you can write Elwin number 3. That means it denotes the whole of his book, that philosophy of Nefa, page number and everything. So these are mostly available reference styles being used today. That is ML style, modern language association for the humanities, and APA style, that is American Psychological Association, Harvard style of reference, Oxford style and Chicago style of reference being used in research. But Oxford style is very old one. Mostly we do not use this reference in the end of this page. We use either Chicago style of endnote reference system or APA style or the Harvard style. So it depends. It is a flexible system. Somebody may ask this question: is there any Guwahati style of reference or Imphal style of reference or New Delhi style of reference. But India, unfortunately, we have not evolved any New Delhi style of reference. We are still copying the Western models of research without understanding the ground realities of the developing nations. We use Chicago, we use Harvard, we use Oxford, we use Vancouver, but unfortunately, today we are in this 21st century. We have not yet evolved any kind of reference styles like New Delhi style of reference or Kolkata style of reference or Imphal style of reference or Guwahati style of reference. But you find so many from foreign countries, we just blindly accept it and put it. And we feel proud about speaking this Harvard, Oxford, Chicago, and Vancouver. This is kind of colonial mindset, and in deriving the Western dominated models, just like in the vehicle registration in Delhi, you find that whenever going for the vehicle registration in Delhi, that they're registering from only for the Euro 6B, because Euro 6B is known for lesser carbon dioxide emission. But we don't have New Delhi or Mumbai or Kolkata style of green transport system of carbon dioxide emission, how to reduce it. So we follow Euro 6. So that is how we have been driven by the Western project of modernity and Western project of research style. Our research problems are different, their research problems are different, but unfortunately, we are using it in a very common platform. Although certain universities like have evolved, I think Manipur University or Guwahati University, they may have the research manuals, and Jawaharlal Nehru University has its own research manual, but still then we try to conform to either the Oxford style of reference or the Chicago style of reference. We don't have any indigenous style of reference. That is my actually personal opinion about this. Then coming to plagiarism, you know that how it is defined. It is plagiarism is the process through which you try to mention the views of others or the facts of others without citing them in your paper. So that comes to a case of plagiarism. Plagiarism is important because of the intellectual property rights. If Professor Bharat Singh or Dr. Dipen or Anil Shaikia or Sangeeta ma'am, they write something, it must be protected through intellectual property rights. That is their property. No one has the right to copy it without citing the source. So it leads to plagiarism. So plagiarism, you can say, is a serious offense. It is a serious offense. In the research of social sciences and our epistemology, it's a serious offense. I would like to share one story, because most of the cases I find, one of my friends was sharing. What he did, he was writing a book. He is innocent, he doesn't know the rules. He was writing a book and he said he has copied everything. He said that I have cited the source, what is the problem? I said, no, you cannot directly copy it. You have to write in your own language. If you are directly taking the sentences from others, you must quote it. You must put the quotations. Or if you are directly taking or deriving some lines from some authors, then you have to translate, you have to put in your own language, then you have to cite it. So University Grants Commission has taken the issue
Good evening, uncle.
very seriously, and they have tried to
I'm just
minimize the issue of
Doing,
plagiarism to a
webinar.
greater extent
webinar
by
through laptop.
adopting certain softwares. One of them is Turnitin. There are many softwares which are available in the websites, but UGC has declared or has recognized certain fixed softwares to find out if there is any plagiarism in your material. There is Turnitin one of them. Now, recently, I came to know that the journal which is published by Indian Council of Social Science Research from the Northeastern Regional Center, Shillong, that is Man and Society, they have made it very categorical that if you are sending one article to this journal, then your plagiarism checker must confine to only 10%. Up to 10% is fine. Some of the actually checkers, they say that it could be 15%, not more than that. 5, 10, and 15, it varies from journal to journal. So this has checked the dubious and a malicious way of deriving data or taking data from other scholars. To some extent, it is useful, but ultimately it depends on your ethics and morality, how we can really use this software for the betterment of the humankind in terms of research. Then coming to journals, because I have used journals in this section, because the reason is that for research writing, journal is an important source. Why? The reason is that at the present moment, if you find the research criteria fixed up by the universities, the PhD is now compulsory for the newly recruited faculty members of assistant professors, and MPhil is dropped. There is no MPhil from 2021, actually July, but it is semesters and sessions are delayed. So coming session onwards, there is no MPhil degree. No MPhil degree is to be given by the universities, only PhD. So after master's degree, you can pursue directly PhD. So when somebody is pursuing his PhD, even before submission, he or she has to write 2 articles in UGC recognized journals, that is UGC CARE journals. It's very difficult because the reason is that UGC CARE journals are limited. It is very difficult to publish. It's a long process. So you have to complete your PhD within 2 years. Then you have to submit 2 research articles, preferably in UGC CARE list. Is it possible? It is very difficult. And it is to be published in journals also, only. And apart from that, in the recruitment of assistant professors and associate professors and professors, 7 articles in UGC CARE listed journals are mandatory to apply for the post of associate professor. I think 10 for professors. So here journal becomes very important for all of us. That is why I have selected some issues and journals, and since I am actively working with SAGE, Routledge, and EPW, I am ready to share my personal view during the question and answer session. So I would like to share certain valuable points in this regard. Journals ISSN. What is ISSN? It is, or it stands for International Standard Serial Number. Anybody can get it. International Standard Serial Number, that is the publication house which is operating in different parts of the globe. In New Delhi, we have the office. So if somebody is ready to publish a journal sitting from Guwahati or Imphal, he or she can register through ISSN at Delhi. I have gone this office once also. So this is the India branch because the global body. So in their respective state capitals or countries' capitals, maybe in Dhaka, then New Delhi or Thimphu and Kathmandu, different parts of this world. I'm saying ISSN has its own branch. So anybody wants to publish a journal or any institution like NERC, suppose they are trying to publish the journal, they can approach this Delhi branch of International Standard Serial Number. Then the next one is UGC CARE. UGC CARE stands for Consortium for Academic Research and Ethics. It is a body. Its headquarters is in Savitribai, Pune University. It is in Pune University, Savitribai by Pune University, Phule. This name of this lady, Savitribai Phule, but name of the university is Pune University. Pune University, the nodal organization actually, which is coordinating this Consortium for Academic Research and Ethics. And it has its own different regions. Northern region, its headquarters is Jawaharlal Nehru University. Tezpur University is the Eastern region. MS University of Maharashtra Shivaji Rao University is the Western region. And then Hyderabad is the Southern region. So these are the different regional headquarters. And Pune University is coordinating this UGC Consortium for Academic and Research Journal. Then another issue is Scopus Index. What is Scopus Index? Actually, Scopus Index, it is an abstract and citation indexing database of peer-reviewed literature, scientific journals, books, and conference proceedings. Actually, it's a global index which actually creates a database for the books, journals, conference proceedings, so that one can log in and find it out whether his article is there or not. And the second one is Web of Science. It is also yet another global citation database. It also cites journals, books, and conference proceedings. I was going through the UGC CARE list. Scopus Index and Web of Science, they are coming under very high category journals. They're category A journals. They're high category. They're highly preferred and very prestigious journals. And they are academically and intellectually very significant. In India, most of the journals, they come, but unfortunately in social sciences it's very difficult to qualify in the norms of Scopus Index and Web of Science. Most of the science journals, natural sciences, they qualify for Web of Science and Scopus Index, but very few journals they qualify for Scopus Index. So for my knowledge is concerned, EPW qualifies for the Scopus Index. So this is all about the journal structure. So it depends upon the scholars and the thinkers, the academicians or the intellectuals to choose their respective list, how to move and publish. So coming to the, I can say the last part of my lecture, I can only say that research design, I'm just summing up because we should have some time for discussion is more important. So I think research writing is a very complex process. Maybe it for PhD thesis writing, for books and journals. But as far as my knowledge is concerned, we must follow a particular design. We must be very clear about our research focus, whether we are planning to take up the historical research or the conceptual research or the field research or the anthropological research. Then we can fix up our topic very well. And as the advisor in the initial part of his lecture very clearly stated, and Dr. Bharat in the initial part of his lecture, he also categorically stated to quantitative and qualitative methods. Of course, I think sometimes the mixed method is also a solution to our research problems and research writings. Mixed method, I mean, you can use the different methods like structured interview and structured questionnaire or unstructured questionnaires and unstructured interviews, observation methods, And also simultaneously you can use sampling as one of the tools of research. You may use stratified random sampling, systematic sampling to suit your research interest. So to me, a mixed method is a solution, yeah, by using both the ways, because you use try to use the observation questionnaires simultaneously. We can also use the sampling methods. I did a lot of work in this regard while doing my research on Northeast in a major project. It was very difficult on my part to conduct research on mixed method. But sometimes we have to do it because sampling is required. So it depends upon the topic. It depends upon your topic. And mixed method, I think, is one of the major solutions to the rising problems of our society. Besides this, one important aspect which I would like to focus is I am evolving this one, e-methods, electronic methods, because in the current pandemic situation and the stringent visa regimes incorporated by the sovereign nation states, it is difficult to visit Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, even Myanmar sometimes to collect data and some feedbacks. So since we are well connected in the 21st century through digital revolution, what we can do, we can reach out to the different aspects and the pockets of the globe through electronic questionnaires, through emails, through WhatsApp, through WebEx, through Zoom, through Google. We can have direct one-to-one discussion, direct interview, direct observation of different aspects confronting the society. Suppose I'm at Delhi at the present moment, I could not reach Imphal. So I will organize a small workshop inviting my friend Bharat and others from Manipur. We can have an intense discussion and I can distribute online questionnaire. I can get the response very immediately. Even it is very transparent and is also in one way, it would save your time and precious financial fat if there is no proper finance, adequate finance for your research. I don't think it will dilute the research. Field trip is absolutely essential. Field trip is absolutely essential. But to supplement the field trip, I think we can use other sources. E-tools, I call it e-tools, because you go to Imphal and you stay there for 15 days, but unfortunately, myself and Bharat could not collect the materials or the feedbacks and the questionnaires. So Bharat will say, no, okay, Dr. Patnaik, you can leave. I'll collect and will send it by post. So I'll call him, have you completed? Did you send? No, I've sent it through DTDC. It has not yet reached. So a lot of problems are there. So this kind of Zoom conferencing and WebEx conferencing, and you can use it, then it would be hugely useful and immensely beneficial, because it adds greatly to your primary source. Apart from your field visit, the field visit is essential. That cannot be, there is no question about that. There is no debate about that. But besides the field trip, these sources will be extremely useful for the development of research and your writing in the days ahead. So we can have discussion. So this is all about my topic. So Dipan, I think.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, thank you so much for such a deliberation, and you have highlighted every single aspect of the topic, sir. And I would like to request our participant to interact with sir. If they have any questions, any queries, they may ask directly to sir.
One more thing, I just want to request our resource person would like to leave the webinar. I have some other important work. With the permission of organizer and resource person.
Yes,
Thank
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And participants are requested to interact with sir.
Dr. Gagri Fukan, there is a question in the chat box. please.
Yes, there is a question in the chat box by Abdul Kalam Azad. Sir, he has asked about to tell about footnotes again, sir. He has requested to tell you about footnotes again.
Yeah. Footnote part I was explaining in the context while writing PhD thesis and MPhil dissertation in the different universities. We are just explaining in the end of the page the sources of your research. Suppose you have written the culture specific model of development. Okay, so you put a superscript number there, 1, and in this end of the page you put the page in the end of the page you put that superscript number 1. So in 1 you mention Verrier Elwin, comma, the philosophy of Nepha, comma, Itanagar, colon, Directorate of Research 2016. That should be okay. And also I'm explaining in other way also. Suppose you like to explain culture specific model of development, you do not want to do it in the body of the thesis, you want to do in the end of the paper. So what you do, you try to explain it. Culture specific model of development is actually derived by so and so, and so many authors have discussed on that. Then you explain it to one paragraph, and herein you write the sources. Suppose Malinowski, Durkheim, or something else. You write in detail their books and years of publications. So footnote style is basically used in PhD theses and MPhil dissertations, but it is an old pattern. I do not know. It depends upon the different university research manuals. In the Jawaharlal Nehru University, during our period of research, the footnote system was there. We are just mentioning in the end of the page. But at the present moment, I find they're just using APA style of reference. They're just writing, suppose Elwin, and in the bracket, that is the year of publications. So in the end of the page, you have the bibliography. So you can easily connect it. So they do not write in the footnote. So it depends and differs from the university to university. But the meaning of the footnote means end of your foot. Human being is foot. Na? So similarly, it is derived in the end of the page. You just mention the details about the authors, which you have taken as a source in the body of the literature.
Sir, what next, sir? I have a query regarding these footnotes. Sometimes we are using a particular method, and sometimes in case of another university, there is a different method. So can you explain the different style of footnotes so that we can use in a various forms, sir?
Yeah. You see, we have MLA style, that is the modern language style that is used in humanities. So you use Elwin and page number. You don't mention the year. In the MLA style, modern language assessment, suppose you are quoting somebody, you are citing somebody. So you just write there the name, the title of the author and the page number. Don't write the year. The year will be reflected in the bibliography. Okay. But if you are following the APA style, American Psychological Association, then you put the title of the author and the year and that particular reference area. Suppose you have taken some idea from somebody. So there in itself, you put the title of the author and the year. Did you find the difference between MLA style and APA style? In MLA style,
sir, if you give an example in case of MLA style and APA style, that will be very easily, that can be easily understood, sir.
Yeah. I'm giving an example.
Yes.
Suppose you are writing about Dipan Das.
Okay, sir.
If you don't mind, if I'm quoting you, Dipan Das, it will be easier for others. So Dipan Das, I have quoted the idea of federalism from you. Okay. So there itself, I have taken some idea from you. So yes, there itself, I'll write Das 2020. Das 2020 means Dipan Das has written a book in 2020 on federalism in India, a case study of Assam. Okay. So that is the APA style. You are giving the year. Suppose in humanities, when we are following the modern language as an ML style, you write das, page number 25, page number 56. So das bracketed page number, that is a modern language as one. So in the bibliography part, you write like this: Dipan Das or Das Dipan, Indian Federalism, a case study of Assam, then Guwahati, Manak Publications, then year 2020. Okay, but in APS style, you write in the bibliography like this: Das Dipan, full stop, bracket 2020, bracket 2020 in the beginning. Then you write Indian Federalism, a case study of Assam, then Guwahati, then Manak Publications. Understood? In APS style में क्या होता है ना, APS style में title of the author and year comes. ML style में title of the author, year बाद में चला जाता है, last को, year of publication.
Okay.
ये आप बिब्लियोग्राफी में फॉलो करेंगे, लेकिन बॉडी का अंदर में, तो बॉडी का अंदर में रहेगा, इन द बॉडी ऑफ द राइटिंग, उसमें रहेगा एमएलए में 10 पेज नंबर ब्रैकेट 25, बट एपीएस स्टाइल में, हार्वर्ड स्टाइल में 10 2020 ईयर आ जाएगा.
But sometimes in case of thesis writing, we have generally used this. Suppose I am coding one sentence, one comment from a particular book, then we write this like one. In the yes, in the last we will write one, this name, title of the book or title of the author, like this we are using, sir. So what is it, sir?
That's fine. I was telling you, as you are saying 1, 2, 3, 4, that is called superscript. That is called superscript. Okay. Superscript. And you patiently listen. Superscript. इसको थोड़ा listen करने में हो जाएगा. उसमें एक होता है ऑक्सफोर्ड स्टाइल और एक होता है शिकागो स्टाइल. उस स्टाइल के बारे में ज्यादा नहीं जानने में भी चलेगा. Actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 में भी यूज करता हूँ. I also use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what you do in the end of the paper, you write. How do you write it? You will write like this. Not Das Dipan. You will not write Das Dipan. You will write Dipan Das.
Yes.
Indian Federalism, a case study of Assam. Okay. Then you write publication house Guwahati, so and so. Then year comes here. So it's just the opposite. In case of superscript number, in case of footnote का meaning है कि पेज का same पेज में देना है. Difference यही है. In the footnoting system, suppose you are writing a book. In the footnote system, you put the superscript 1 in the same page. But in the endnote system, you put the number 1 in the end of the page. So I will advise you to use in the end of the paper. That is the endnote system, superscript endnote system. I personally innovate this idea. Endnote superscript system. There is nothing there in the literature. I have used this. Endnote superscript system to me is the best available research tools for us. क्योंकि मालूम क्या है, मेरा पर्सनल ओपिनियन है, it is my personal opinion is that if you always put das in the body of literature, somebody may be uninterested. He may be irritated. If you continuously put in the body of the literature Das, Singh, Patnaik, Saikia, Hajarika, Rehman, Khan, Mahanta, Mayur, Das, so the readers would be disinterested. They would be fed up. क्या लिख रहा है बार बार अंदर में. So इसीलिए if you write in the end of the paper, that is superscript endnote system, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 30, and that's very fine. But here the difference is that, please remember, in the APS style, you are writing Das. In the endnote superscript system, you won't write Das, you write Dipan Das. Did you get my point?
Yes.
Your name will come first, the title will come later. These are highly technical issues, but we must be very clear. That is the reason I was saying ML style. ML style, you see, Das will come first, but the page number will come in the body of the literature and the year will come in the end of the bibliography. And the Harvard style is just like APA style, same body, literature, author's title will come, Das will come. Then we have Vancouver style, we have Oxford style, many styles, Canberra style. We have many styles, Canadian styles, but the point is that our objective is to minimize monotheism. Our main interest is to minimize the errors. Our interest is to generate interest in the research, in the writing which you have written. Our main objective is to generate interest. Something new can be developed or created. So I think EndNote system is one of the most, I think, best available systems. EndNote superscript system, I call it. So anybody, yeah, I'm ready to deal with those issues. We are technical, but we'll be happy because these are necessary to know.
And one thing more, sir. What is about content analysis?
Actually, content analysis is a technical part, means I will just discuss. It is very difficult actually. Content analysis, how to analyze the content, the data you are creating. Suppose Bharat also can highlight on this because you are collecting data from the quantitative sources. The samples, it is very easy to generate the data and get the conclusion. But content analysis in qualitative research is difficult because you undergo observation, you undergo questionnaires, unstructured questionnaires, and you try to mix with the people. So how you try to get the data in a very codified form, how to analyze that content, it is very difficult. You generate so many data. There is vast data, there is ocean of data. But how to synthesize, how to analyze, how to use this data for your research, that is more important. That is the part of the content analysis. I think that is the way how to organize your data in a very systematic form from a huge literature available, huge data available from the earth or from the source of your research.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for clarifying our doubt. And there is another question in chat box, sir.
Yes.
Safir Rahman has asked, if a researcher wants to make his research work on the minority Muslim people's issue prevailing in Assam, whether it would be a topic of research and what type of methodology has to be adopted?
You say, yes, his name is, may I know his name?
Yes, sir, Safir Rahman.
Safir Rahman is a scholar or a professor? I will. He's a scholar or faculty member?
We don't know that, sir, yet.
Acha, theek hai. Safir actually, definitely, yeah, it is very welcoming to work on minority issues. In case of Assam, you are most welcome because this is an important part of the research. And so far as the methodology is concerned, you see, in what context you would like to analyze the history of minorities. If you like to work on the historical aspect, particular role of Muslims in the freedom struggle or the role of Muslims during the British period, then you have to use the historical research design. And if you want to study the demographic composition, their poverty, their illiteracy, then you have to use the field research design. So I would like to rather submit here that options lies with you. How do you look at the problem of minorities? So if you are working on human rights, demographic compositions, ethno-related issues, religious conflagration, different issues are concerned. And the field research is one of the most important available methods for you. But if you like to do research on historical aspect of the minorities in Assam, then you can follow or emulate the historical research design.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Any other participant want to ask any questions? Any other participant want to interact with sir? There is no more such questions, sir. Sir, thank you so much for such a wonderful informative and interesting deliberation of today's topic of discussion, research writing in social science. Sir, you have analyzed the topic such a way, giving various relevant examples that I think we are having no difficulties to understand the matter. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Now
welcome.
I would like to request our joint coordinator, Mrs. Rumi Gogoi, Madam, Assistant Professor of Masqua Degree College, Dhemaji, to offer vote of thanks. Mrs. Rumi Gogoi, Madam.
Good evening to all of you. Dr. Anisika sir, respected guest of honor, Professor Bharat Singh sir, honorable resource person, Dr. Jajoti Kesri Patnaik sir, respected Principal Madam, Masqua Degree College, respected dignitaries, and all the participants. It is such an honor for me to thank you all dignitaries. On behalf of Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, Guwahati, Assam, Assam Political Science Association, Department of Education, Masqua, Dhemaji, I extend a warm welcome to the full gathering. I would like to express my gratitude to all as delegates the webinar for their presence and contribution to make the webinar a grand success. I extend my gratitude to Honorable Chairperson, Dr. Dipen Saikia sir, without whose encourage this webinar would be a dream for us. I would like to heartiest thanks Dr. Honorable Inaugurator Dr. Anisika sir and guest of honor Professor Bharat Singh sir, and valuable time for us. Next, I extend my gratitude to respected resource person Dr. Jajoti Kesari Patnaik sir to take out time from his busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you, sir, for inspiring and encouraging us with valuable words. Your valuable words make the session very interesting. On this special occasion, a special thanks to Mrs. Bhumika Madam, Principal Masqua Degree College, for providing immense support to make the webinar successful. I extend my gratitude to all the participants for their active participation, who is made the webinar a grand success. I must thank the organizing team for working hard for the past few days to make this webinar successful. Thank you everyone once again for making the webinar a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, Rumi Gogoi Madam, for your vote of thanks. Now the program is over. So we will very soon meet with a new topic on coming 18th September on this topic, intellectual property rights. Hope to meet you all in the coming program. Thank you. Thank you all.